Hello friends, in this video we will show how to implement sorting in simplest way for our HTML grid using MVC5, Entity Framework, Codeforce and Bootstrap. And we would like you to watch the previous 4 parts in the playlist. And in the previous parts we have shown how to render simple grid in MVC and add, edit and delete with that HTML grid. And we have also implemented paging with that grid. And if you watch these videos then you'll be sync for this video, and we have used the same solution and same example moving forward in order to implement sorting. So this is the screenshot how the grid will look, and the blue text is basically anchors, and on click of these anchors the grid will be sorted, and we are going to achieve this in this video. So let's start with the application. So we have ASP.NET MVC5 application, and we have employee model. We have 6 properties in our employee model, and we have grid context class which is inheriting from DB context as we are using Codeforce approach, and we have created a DB set of employees. So as per the protocol, the Codeforce approach will generate a database that is samplegrid.models.gridcontext, and in this database it will create a table for employees data set, DB set. So let's connect to the database and check whether it exists or not. Till then we have home controller. This home controller has all the methods which is responsible for add, edit, delete and rendering of the grid. So our SSMS is connected, and if you check the database you can find sample graded model dot grid context, and if you new query this database, and I'm going to select all records from employees table. So there are total 14 rows. Okay, so now in the current application, as per the previous video, that is we have implemented paging, the solution or the app looks like this. Now it has provision for add, edit and delete to the grid, and it also supports paging. Now we are going to support sorting as well. Now for sorting we are going to create a separate view, and on that view we are going to implement our sorting. So let's start. So I'm going to have an action result method, so I'm going to name it as sorting demo, and I'm going to return view, and with this view I'm going to return all my records from employee table. Okay, so I'm returning all the records from my employee table and I'm passing it to the view. And let's add a view. I'm going to add a plain view, and inside this view let's have a heading sorting demo, and we are going to create this view as a strongly type. So I'm referring my model here, and I'm passing list, so I'm going to have IEnumerable, and type of model is employee class. So this we have created a strongly typed view, and the only thing pending here is we need to create a table structure or grid structure to show the controls on the UI. So now to do that I've already did in the paging part, so I'm just going to copy this table structure. As our model is same, we can copy paste it here, and I don't want edit and delete for this example, so I'm removing those TDs, and similarly I'm removing TH as well. So let me make few changes in the route config. So I'm making sorting demo as my first method to call, first action result method to call, and I'm running the application. So when the page loads, you'll be able to see the records in the tabular structure, and you can see the grid has been rendered, but it is not looking like a grid. So in order to do that, I'm going to use Bootstrap. So I've already applied Bootstrap class, that is table bordered, but it is not working as I've not referenced the bootstrap.css file in my view. So let me refer it inside head section, and if I refresh the page, you can see a better view of a table, and I want a small table compared to the currently being rendered. So let me apply some style to it. I'm going to have width of around 2600 pixel, and I want my table to be at 50 pixel from the left of my screen. So let me refresh the page again. You can see a good UI of a table. Now on this UI we are going to implement sorting. So in order to achieve the screenshot, we need to have these th, that is table headers, as action link, or you can say anchor. So in order to achieve that anchor, we need to render an action link. So let's create anchor tag using html dot action link helper. So the first parameter it accepts is the name of the link text. The second parameter is the name of the method, and we are going to post to the same method. Okay, and the third parameter is the route values, and we are going to send a route value, and we are going to name it as sorting criteria. Okay, and in this case it is id. So what we are going to do, we are going to send the sorting criteria to this sorting demo method, and accordingly based on that criteria received, we are going to sort this employee list and again send it back to the view. So similarly, let's create for other values as well. Okay, the second parameter is name, and then we have age, and for age I'm going to send sorting criteria as age. For designation I'm going to send the same text. And we have location. Finally we have years of experience. So let's refresh our page. You can see the anchors has been rendered as a part of th. If you click on this, you won't find anything, and you can see the URL has been changing. We are sending the sorting criteria as age, designation, location based on the anchor clicked, but nothing is happening to the grid. This is because we are not accepting anything here. So let's accept the same parameter, and inside this method I'm going to have a list of type employee. I'm going to name it as an emp list. Currently I'm initializing it to null. Then I'm going to have a switch case over sorting criteria variable, and I'm going to define few cases here. So the possible cases are, first is the case id. Okay, so when the case is id, I'm going to assign employee list as context dot employees dot order by. I'm going to use lambda expression to select my desired property, to which I'm going to use it for ordering, and finally I'm going to cast it to list, and I'm going to break the case. Okay, so this is the simple case for the ID. Similarly, I'm going to have six cases for my six properties. So my other properties are name, age, designation, location, and finally years of experience. Similarly, I'll make changes here as well. Name, age, designation, location, and finally experience. Okay, then once the switch case is executed, we are going to have a list in our hand which is ordered by based on the criteria being sent to this method, and then we are going to send this sorted list to our view, and then the view will render this sorted list. So let's run the application and check whether it works or not, and we'll have a dry run as well. So let's start the application again. Okay, there is some exception. Okay, it is saying the object reference is not set to instance of an object and our model is null basically. That is because we have not included the default case. It is when this method is called for the first time, the sorting criteria is null, so it will not match any of the case. So in that case we need to have a default, and in the default I'm going to write the same thing written for ID as we are going to have default case as same as ID, because we want the list to be sorted based on the ID and the default case. So let's run the application again and check. This time the list has been rendered and it has rendered according to the employee ID. Now if I click on name, you can see it is rendered as per the name being in the ascending order. If I click on age, then based on the age. If I click on year of experience, then based on the year of experience. If I click on location, then it will be sorted based on the locations. So this is how we have implemented a simple sorting. Let's try run for a single case. If I click on the name, I'll get sorting criteria as name, and it will go to the case with name, and it will sort the list based on the name property, and then that list will we are going to return to the employee. Okay, now there's one more scenario. Now if I click on ID, okay, now this ID is sorted in ascending order. Now if I click the ID again, as per the logic the ID should be rendered in descending order. So when you click on the first time it will be in ascending order. If you click it again, then the grid should be rendered in the descending order based on the ID. So in order to implement that, we need to have few more logic written. So what we are going to do in that case is we are going to have view bags. So suppose let's implement for ID. So what we are going to have here is when I'm going to set a view bag when the case is ID, and I'm going to set it to ID. Similarly, when the first time when the sorting criteria is null, then the default is called, and in default we are using the ID. So I'm going to assign the viewback.id in this case as well, and let me change in the view as well. Now this will not be hard coded because we are storing it in the viewback. Okay, and now what we are going to do here is let me create one more case. for id, and we name it as id underscore dsc. dsc means descending, and inside this case we are going to order by descending based on the employee id, and in this case we are going to set view back to id underscore dsc, and here we are going to have logic. Now when this method is called for the first time, the sorting criteria is null, so we are going to have a null check here. If this is not equal to null, then we are going to reset the sorting criteria based on one condition, and that condition is if sorting criteria dot contains contains what, dsc, then if it contains dsc means the grid on the view is already in the descending order, then we are going to separate dsc from the sorting criteria and will only send id. So to do that, we are going to split the sorting criteria by underscore. I'm going to send the first part of it, and if the sorting criteria doesn't contain dsc, that means the grid is in the ascending order of the id. So in that case, I'm going to use string.format to format the string to include dsc. So whatever sorting criteria I'm going to have, I am appending dsc to it, and accordingly that will be sorted. So let's put a debugger and have a dry run for IDE. So when the method will be called for the first time, the sorting criteria is null, so it will not go inside this method, and it will go to the default one, and in that we have set the viewback.id to id. Okay, so now the grid will be in the ascending order of the id. Now if I click the grid id again, now my sorting criteria is id, so it will go inside the if and it will execute the else part, so that we are going to have a sorting criteria now as id underscore dsc, and inside the switch case it will go to the case having id dot underscore dsc, and it will give me the list in the descending order of the id. So you can see the descending order has been rendered on the UI. So this is how you can achieve ascending and descending ordering of or sorting of grid based on a particular column. So let me update the code for entire all the properties. So I have already created a function, so I'm just going to copy paste it as it involves a lot of code writing. So just let me replace this method. Okay, I have to stop the application. Okay, and similarly I have to replace the UI part as well. So inside here I'm going to replace this entire th. So now we have viewbacks for all the properties, and similarly in the controller we have created the viewbacks initially for the first time, because none of the case is being executed for the first time, so all the viewbacks will be null. So we are initializing to their normal case, and then this condition is same, and then we have ascending and descending case for all the properties. Okay, and then finally we are returning the list. So let's run this and check whether it works or not. Okay, now if I click on ID again, it will be in descending order. Now if I click on name, now it is in the descending order of the Theo. If I click it again, then it is in the ascending order. Okay, so now the year of experience is in the descending order. If I click again, then ascending order of the year of experience. So this is how you implement sorting in the grid, in the HTML grid, using MVC5 and entity framework code first approach. Now there's one more thing I would like to add here, is that the URL being is not as per the MVC standards. Now in MVC we have provision of rewriting the URL, so I'm going to have a slash instead of this query string. So let's make a change. Now as I have set the default method in my default route, so now in this default route we have a sorting criteria as our parameter. So I'm going to replace this ID with sorting criteria, and similarly here as well, sorting criteria. Now let me run the replication again and check if the URL is being updated or not. For the first time the criteria is null, so it is not showing anything. If I click on name, so you can see the URL is being meaningful URL we have given, and we understand what property is being sent to the method, and based on what criteria the grid is sorted. So this is how you can perform sorting on your grid with using MVC5 ASP.NET and Codeforce Entity Framework. I hope you like this video. Thank you, friends.